you, Lascan. Minister, this bill, I presume, is seen as a further response to the continuing cost of living crisis. Now, we see inflation at over 8% last year in 2022 and expected to be well over 7% this year. And I think it may increase further, and I'll come back to that later. But that's 15% in total. And that makes a huge difference to families and individuals and businesses. Food inflation is even higher at 16.3% year on year, and it's now at a 15-year high. And that means, Minister, that a couple of baskets of groceries, maybe costing €78 on this day last year, would now cost €90.71 this year. So what we see is fuel inflation running at record levels, and we see families and businesses struggling. Now, Minister, this bill has a number of positive aspects which I support, but equally, Minister, there are serious gaps which I will highlight. First of all, can I say, Minister, that I see it as a strength and not a weakness to amend the finance bill and to improve what's there, because nobody is perfect, no decisions are perfect, and context means everything. So in that context, I believe that this is in itself a positive move. Now, Minister, it was very clear from the beginning that the TBES scheme would not work. Very, very few businesses availed of it. And the changes that you have announced are really important and I believe will make a real difference. I've had many, many business owners contacting me over the last few months, and they could not avail of the scheme. And the extension of the scheme to May 2023 is important, and also the fact that you are reducing the increase in the average per unit cost of electricity from 50% to 30% in order to qualify for the scheme is positive for many, many businesses, and also the fact that it will be applied retrospectively. Also, Minister, you are raising the cap from 10 to 15,000 for a single business and 30 to 45,000 for a business with multiple premises from the 1st of March. And as I said, I know businesses will appreciate and welcome this. One small concern I have, Minister, now I hadn't time to read through the bill in detail, but in your speech earlier today, you said that the bill provides a new time limit for making claims under the scheme, which will be 2 months from the end of the specified period. And then in brackets is written, I'm just quoting directly from your speech here, it's written, and no longer than 4 months from the end of the claim period to which the claim relates. Now, if, let's say, a person wanted to claim, and it is retrospective back to September, if you go 2 months from the end of September, that brings you to the end of October. And if you take another 4 months, that brings you to the end of February. But that was 3 weeks ago. So I'm just wondering if that is the situation, and if it is, that would need more flexibility there. Because for a start, many businesses wouldn't be aware even of these changes. So if they had to claim right back to September, some businesses would miss out on this. Now, as I said, I'm simply quoting from your speech that you made earlier, and perhaps my interpretation of what you said is not correct. But if it is, I think you need to just look at the number of months that from the end of the claim period to which the claim relates. Also, Minister, it's deeply disappointing that you are still only considering a separate scheme for businesses that use oil and LPG, and you were telling us that the Minister for Trade and Enterprise is exploring options. Minister, that's way too late. that the costs are hitting businesses hard now, and I think, Minister, you'll agree, we need immediate action. It's too late for ministers to be exploring options at this point in time. Now, you told us today about the phased restoration of the rates of excise on petrol, diesel and marked gas. So what we see is that by the end of October this year, there will be a 5 cent increase in marked gas and oil, a 16-cent increase in diesel per litre, and a 21-cent increase in petrol per litre by the 31st of October. Minister, that will hit the transport sector hard, and it is a body blow to motorists and, as I said, also to road hauliers. But not only will it hit those sectors hard, it will drive inflation higher. And earlier I said that the expected inflation rate was around 7.5%. That's what we're expected. But because of these increases that will feed into higher costs for transport, etc., then every type of good that's transported, the price will increase, and that means food inflation will be higher, and I think that's definitely going to increase the expected rate of inflation. And I would have thought that the purpose of this bill was to not so much decrease the rate of inflation, because I'm not sure that you can do that, that's the job of the ECB, but certainly not to add to it. And I honestly believe that those changes will add to the cost of inflation, which means that we're likely to see further rate increases from the ECB if inflation keeps rising. And again, I'm going to come back to that point in a minute or two when I talk about mortgage holders. I have to say, Minister, also that I was pleased to see the continuation of the 9% rate on VAT for the hospitality and the tourism sector. Yes, there is no doubt there has been evidence of price gouging. We've seen it in Dublin last weekend, but equally, Minister, huge numbers are employed in this sector in the regions. It is one of the most important sectors after agriculture. Small restaurants, cafes, small family hotels, they make a huge difference to the local economy. So from that perspective, I was glad to see that you held that rate at 9%. But Minister, you know, the big gap, the gaping hole in this legislation is the fact that there is no reference to housing. And every one of us in this House will be, you know, able to recognise that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. Nobody will deny that. I supported a Sinn Féin motion a few weeks ago which looked for a targeted mortgage interest relief measure. It was a modest measure, Minister, that would make a real difference to some mortgage holders who have seen 6 rate increases by the ECB. And, you know, consequently, because of that, they see similar increases in their mortgage repayments. We are looking, Minister, now at somewhere between €300 and €500 per month of an increase in mortgage repayments for many householders. They're the same people that are dealing with the unprecedented inflation rates in food, fuel, goods and services. And this bill could have been an opportunity to assist certain mortgage holders, most especially those whose mortgages were sold to vulture funds that are now paying 8 up to 9% mortgage interest rates. In fact, Minister, I listened to one economist yesterday saying that some mortgage holders whose mortgages had been sold to vulture funds could find themselves paying mortgage interest rates in double digits. Now, Minister, I come from a generation that remembers double-digit interest rates for mortgages, but I never thought I would see it again. And whether that comes to pass or not, whether they're 9.5% or 10.5% as the year goes on, I can't say, but it's highly likely that some mortgage holders will find themselves paying mortgage interest rates in double digits. And we know the huge pressure that that will put on those people as they struggle, as I said, with increasing inflation. Now, this was an opportunity to help some of those mortgage holders in a targeted, limited way. And it has been missed. As I said, Sinn Féin put forward a proposal. You wouldn't have had to take that proposal, but you could have devised a proposal yourself that would have targeted those most in need. And I am disappointed it's not here. And finally, Minister, of course, all anybody is talking about today is the fact that if the eviction ban is lifted, many families, individuals, children, people with disabilities, people who are ill, and many, many others, there's a long list, but I won't go through it, but many others will find themselves looking for emergency accommodation in the near future. And many counties have little or no emergency accommodation. Now, why do I say they'll be looking for emergency accommodation? Why am I saying that they won't be able to get a place to rent, an apartment, a house, whatever? Well, before I came in, like some other TDs, I just checked how many rental properties, according to daft.ie, they are today, right now, available to rent in the constituency that I represent. And I see that in Roscommon, there are 13 properties in the whole of County Roscommon, 13 properties to rent. In Sligo, there are 21. In Donegal, a very large county, there are 57. And in Leitrim, there are 4 properties available to rent. So my question is, if this eviction ban goes ahead, where are people in Leitrim, in Sligo, in Roscommon and Donegal, where are they going to go? Where are they going to find rental accommodation? Minister, this is a crisis. It's a real crisis. And for some people, it will become a real emergency. I proposed, actually, with some of my colleagues, that we extend the eviction ban to June 2024 to give your government a chance to build and refurbish homes and not to have a winter eviction this time next year. But, Minister, accompanying that, the suggestion I made was that there would be a similar relaxation on the requirements for planning permission on refurbishing existing buildings or new temporary buildings, that is, modular homes, as already exists for providing accommodation for Ukrainian refugees. Minister, if public authorities and local authorities could refurbish derelict buildings, empty buildings, and install modular homes for the next 15 months without having to seek planning permission, I could see that significant numbers of homes might well come on stream. And that's what's important, because that's really what matters. And that would mean more and more homes would be available for families. Minister, we have seen the relaxation in the planning laws for providing accommodation for Ukrainian refugees. I really think it's something you need to look at for providing accommodation for everybody who needs it. And I think it would make a big difference to your numbers, to me at least, and if I'm wrong, tell me, but to me at least, Minister, it makes sense. And also in the context of this finance bill, Minister, I believe a tax package for landlords to try and entice them to stay in the market would be most welcome. Corporate landlords have a very favourable tax rate. Small incidental landlords pay the full rate of tax. Yes, I know they have offsets, but after that they pay the full rate of tax. I have spoken to some landlords, and there is a real worry that more will leave the market. So I think we have to have a situation where, we give a tax incentive to landlords to stay in the market. We pull out the stops on everything else, including the requirements for planning in the very specific areas of public authorities, and not new houses, but refurbish old houses or build modular homes. If we relax the planning requirements there, it will bring more houses on stream, and then the pressure will ease, and then any government might well find themselves in a position where they could lift an eviction ban, knowing that there was enough supply or a reasonable amount of supply in the market where people could rent homes, not, as I said, the 4 that we see in County Leitrim today, or the 21 in Sligo. Minister, there are some good proposals in this bill, but there are glaring gaps, and in my view, the real gap is housing, and because of that, I have to say I am disappointed with the bill overall. Thank you.